Welcome to the channel. My name is Matthias. Today we're going to talk about Marvel Team Up issues 69 and 70, written by Chris Claremont. And in these two issues, we have a pretty crazy story arc where we have Spider-Man teaming up with Havok and Thor. They're going to have to deal with a pretty obscure 1970s X-Men villain called the Living Pharaoh / the Living Monolith. So basically, it is one character with two different superpowered identities. The way his powers work and who he is, it's pretty convoluted, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So the story actually starts off in Muir Island. We have Havok and Polaris. They're just taking a walk during the nighttime when out of nowhere they're attacked by the minions of the Living Pharaoh. So we're going old school henchmen, so basically they sort of have like the look or motif of the main bad guy. When I see things like this, it always reminds me of the Batman TV series from the 60s. It's so cheesy and campy, but I love it. But the thing is that even though Havok and Polaris are crazy powerful, these minions are able to take down Polaris. They capture Havok. They're going to take them to their master. So the thing is that Havok's powers and the Living Pharaoh's powers are sort of tied together. Way further down the line in the 12 crossover, we discover that this is because of Apocalypse. The Living Pharaoh / the Living Monolith is an agent of chaos of Apocalypse, and to keep him in check, Apocalypse somehow through comic book magic or science, whatever, tied Living Monolith's powers to Havok's, and Havok is basically like a key to control the Living Pharaoh. So it happens after Havok gets captured. The story cuts to Peter Parker. He's studying super late in this lab when he hears someone break in. We have the Living Pharaoh's goons trying to steal some stuff from the lab. It's not really clear what they take in the first place. Peter Parker jumps into action. He changes into Spider-Man. Now, something pretty funny happens to Spider-Man that I actually never have seen before. He uses way too much webbing to try to capture these goons, and he ends up getting caught up in the webbing himself. So, feeling immensely stupid, the bad guys get away, but he's able to put a spider tracer on one of the guys. So the thing is that Spider-Man is able to track these guys down, and at the same time that he arrives, we have an ambulance that's coming in. He sees that they're unloading Havok. He immediately recognizes him. So he jumps in to save him. And here we get the first confrontation with our two heroes against the Living Pharaoh. And what happens is, while this battle is raging on, one of the Pharaoh's minions puts like this power dampener. And it leaves him in a catatonic state. And they take him to like this crystal sarcophagus. Because what's going to happen is once they close that sarcophagus, it's going to completely block off Havok's powers. And this will lead to the Living Pharaoh being able to convert into the Living Monolith. And what actually happens is Spider-Man sort of screws up when he's battling against the Living Pharaoh, and he sort of helps him. He ends up punching him super hard. He goes flying through the air and he falls on top of the crystal sarcophagus, closing it. And this leads him to turn into the Living Monolith, who is a character that is crazy powerful, and he grows to a gigantic size. Now, lucky for Peter Parker, Thor arrives to give him a hand. Because that's something that I forgot to mention early in the story. Polaris, when Havok got kidnapped, she was going to call the X-Men for help, but she knew they were on a mission, so she called the Avengers. Beast is the one that picks up the phone. He goes flying to Muir Island. But the thing is that Thor was also present there, so he knew that something was afoot. So we get this epic battle between Thor and the Monolith. And I really have to say that Thor is really not holding back. Like, Monolith and Thor are leveling a good part of the city. While this is going down, Spider-Man goes to the crystal sarcophagus to liberate Havok. He knows that it has been booby-trapped and that it has been connected to explosives. And here we get to see Spider-Man use his powers in a super cool way, and I've never seen him do this again after this. He actually uses his spider senses to dismantle the bomb. He knows what cables to cut because they don't spike his spider senses. So the thing is that he's able to liberate Havok, and what happens to the living monolith, for some reason he does not revert back to being the living pharaoh, and he just disappears in the middle of the battle. So I'm not sure if this is the issue that establishes that the living monolith was just teleported to the middle of outer space, where Bishop and Deathbird find him floating in the middle of space, way down the line right before the 12 crossover. Or if he's teleported there in a second confrontation against Thor, so I would have to find that one out. But the thing is that we're going to leave this video here. I hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time. Bye.